Thank you once again for returning. The history of Nexus continues with Chapter 3, where we look to the origins of the Draken and their induction into the Dominion. Chapter 3, Part 2, The Search for Perfect Killers. Despite their unbroken run of military victories in the 3 centuries since the Dominion's founding, the Makari determined a need for new blood. While tactically ingenious, the Cassians lacked a certain zeal for carnage that the Makari's most recent battle metrics unanimously agreed would efficiently bring upstart races to heel. Shock troops of a more savage aspect were required. After meticulously studying thousands of species to analyze their combat effectiveness, the Makari had advised Azrion, the reigning Lumini Emperor and son of Dominus Half-Blood, that the savage Draken of the volcanic planet Mikros would be ideal. But the loyalty of these ferocious hunters could not be won through parley. The Makari disliked leaving critical matters to chance. Prior to landing on Mikros in 344 AE, they had extensively studied and simulated the most probable fighting styles of the High Clan Lord. Exhaustively, they analyzed his techniques, his tendency to go for the carotid, his signature hand strength, and his insatiable fondness for decapitations. Then they devoted their arts to probing them for weakness and designing countermeasures. They isolated his vulnerabilities, the decades-old ankle injury that had never healed, his mortal dread of infection, and the brittle base of his left horn. Then, they systematically devised methods of exploiting them. Azrion had been bred and trained his whole life for this bout. Races with a culture based around honor, the Makari had instructed them, were predictable prey, easy to manipulate. But the more Azrion studied Zur, the more convinced he became that the Makari were wrong. He improvised, he adapted, he used cunning when least expected, and retaliated with reserves undreamed of. He was a perfect fighter, and the Makari, for all their own perfection, were unable to see it. Without fail, Azrion told them what they wanted to hear, but inwardly he vowed that this would be a fair contest, free of persiflage. His only hope in defeating Draken honor was not to disdain it, but adopt it, and become its master. Within hours of the Cassians' arrival, the pair reached the sacred dueling ground just outside the Draken capital of Red River. There, they would decide by blood the fate of the 2 empires and thousands of worlds.